Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So now I want to say just quickly hello to everybody. Hello to anybody who might come into the chat. I'm not engaging with the chat in this video because there's a lot that I want to say, and I've got classes later, very shortly, in fact. So I want to get through what I've got to say. But thank you for watching and thank you for participating. Okay, so what I'm really here to tell you in this video is I will not be covering the Charlie Kirk case anymore at all. I've done a lot of thinking about it. There's so many strange things about this case. So I felt myself going down the rabbit hole with this case. And I don't like going down rabbit holes. I don't like conspiracy type theories and things like that. Especially when I'm being pushed in that direction. Now, I myself did not even know who Charlie Kirk was this time last week. It's probably a lot of you out there didn't, especially if you're not in America. I'm sure he was a lot more famous in America, and he's a lot more famous with young people, of course. You know, I know several young people who did know who he was, and he was, of course, a political podcaster. He was not a politician. He was not an elected representative. He was only 31 years old. He'd started up this right-wing political movement that some people agree with, some people wouldn't agree with 100%. I would probably disagree with most of Charlie's views, but not all of them. So what I found this week after the horrible murder of Charlie Kirk, and before anyone's, people make laugh, some people, what they've put in comments. I have never once said I think it's good that Charlie Kirk has been shot. I don't think that. Nobody should be murdered for their political views. I think it's disgusting. I've said that from day one. People don't watch my videos properly. And then they make comments because I was critical of his wife's address to the nation or the creepy video that she put out of him in a coffin. Sorry, when I started my YouTube channel, I started to speak my own truths. You know, what I believe, my thoughts. Charlie believed in free speech. Seems like a lot of his followers don't believe in free speech unless it agrees with them. Now, I'm not here to endorse conspiracy theories for these kind of people, because the more I look into this, the more it seems to me that the very sad death of Charlie, which has left his two children fatherless, is being used to the hilt by this person, the king of darkness himself. But who's the other ones? This person. He's used it as well. This person been on his podcast telling people to report people who celebrated Charlie's death. Now, I don't agree with anyone who would have celebrated Charlie's death. That is not the thing to do. You don't celebrate anyone's death, unless they're Saddam Hussein or some complete murderer. You don't celebrate people's death just because you've got a different view to them. So can we make that clear, please? I'm not saying you should celebrate his death. And then, of course, what I think might be as well at the root of it all, this man is like the ghost. It's like America's Scrooge, isn't he? The ghost of Christmas past. He keeps popping up. This man cannot get away from the associations with him. He's associated with Epstein up to the hilt. And, I think American people know it, really. But there's, the Trump supporters, you're just so blind. Your president, I'm sorry, your president is a convicted sex offender. He's a PDF. He was associated to the hilt with Epstein. And sooner or later, maybe it'll come out. This man is not going away. He's dead. He's been dead for years, but he's haunting Donald Trump. And not only Donald Trump, he's just brought the downfall of Peter Mandelson in the UK. He may bring the downfall of Keir Starmer yet because of his failure to deal properly with it all. This man is haunting America. He's pulling the strings even now. And he's associated with this man as well, you know, with his religion. This man is a monster, a monster. And you know what? Even Charlie knew he was a monster. And although Charlie started off apparently being quite sort of pro-Israel, etc., in later years he's been criticising what's happening in Gaza. He called it a genocide, what's happening in Gaza. He's been criticising the Epstein files and all this, because Charlie was a very puritanical man. You know, if we believe his propaganda, you know, you know, if he genuinely was the person that he purported to be, you know, he was more of a biblical speaker than a political speaker. He's, you know, he spoke from the Bible, from the scriptures, and they just don't correlate those sometimes with the other things he was saying. But anyway, I'm not going to go into all his, you know, I've watched a lot this week. So I feel like I've gone from a man that I didn't even know who he was, and now I know so much about him, I'm confused because I don't know what's the truth and what isn't the truth. Every time I go on social media, his speeches are being pushed at me on TikTok, on everything. Got Elon Musk, of course, using it as a, you know, nobody's using his death as a way of reconciling people. Look, you know, this is not the people that matter, like the president and the vice president. Use Charlie's death as a way of reconciling people, not a way of splitting people further apart. The other thing that I find strange, not strange, but convenient, if you like. So, of course, Charlie was unashamedly anti-trans, and he was just talking about trans shootings, and boom, at that very moment, he was shot by a young boy who apparently is living with a partner who's in transit for, you know, intransitive. You know, sometimes you think, oh gosh, you know, isn't that too much of a coincidence? This is how this case makes me feel. Everything, I don't get any of it. It's all strange. And I'm going down this rabbit hole, and I feel like they want you to go down the rabbit hole, because they want you to go down the rabbit hole about Charlie Kirk so you don't look at everything else that's happening in America. America is absolutely a pivotal point. America at the moment, it's not a nice place, is it? You've got the right and the left arguing. Americans don't, you know, they hate the immigrants. There's no unity in America. And America's a massive country, so it's hard to keep it together. And you've got the president, the one who should be toning everything down for the benefit of all Americans, fanning the flames and using Charlie Kirk's death as a political tool to deflect from his problems with Epstein and all the other things that he's done. So let's talk about Charlie. Let's talk about Charlie. Let's not talk about Epstein. And you know, it just suddenly struck me. As I said, I don't like going down rabbit holes, and when I feel like I'm actually being chased down a rabbit hole, you know, encouraged to go down a rabbit hole, you know, that. And unashamedly, I did not like that address that his widow made to the nation. Did not like that video she put out. It was all staged. It felt really uncomfortable. Did not feel genuine to me. That's my free speech. It didn't. Now, if it did to you, that's fine too. It did feel genuine to you. Fine. But not to me, and not only me, but a lot of other people. The whole thing feels like a big hype. And a man who I didn't even know who he was a week ago, suddenly, you know, you feel like, you know, they're going to go to the Pope and ask for another sainthood for him, you know, which of course he would never get, because the Pope does not like, the Pope himself was an immigrant. He doesn't like all this rhetoric about immigrants, does he? And it's not in the interest, you know, it's not, if you look at the scriptures and the Bible, etc., you know, it's just this treatment of people is not right. It's just been twisted. But anyway, as I say, I'm not getting into a political discussion. It's nothing to do with whether Charlie is right wing, left wing, or whatever. He could be anything. When I feel like I'm being encouraged to discuss something because it causes divisions. I'm not here to cause divisions. When I set up my crime YouTube channel, I want to talk about stories of ordinary people who have, you know, like stalking cases, or like babies that have been neglected, or children that I want to be a voice for the victims of crimes, mainly women and children, but also men too if they've been wronged. You know, I want to be an advocate for those victims. I want to put warnings out for people so that, you know, they don't fall into the same trap whatever those victims fell into, and it ended up, you know, unfortunately costing them their lives, you know, manipulation, coercive control, etc. That's the YouTube channel I want to do. I'm not propaganding rabbit hole stories for a corrupt government in America. Do you know what? You get the government you deserve, and the people that voted for Trump, you've got the government that you asked for. And good luck with it, because it's not going to be good for your country. It's not going to be good for your country. But there you go. There he is. You love him. If you love him, of course, not all Americans love him, but then, yeah, fine. Then you have to live with the consequences of having a Trump government. And the other thing, of course, on that very same day that poor Charlie was shot, there was another school shooting that hasn't hardly even been in the news. You know, these are the kind of things. I don't want you to talk about that either. Don't want you to talk about school shootings. They're not supposed to happen under Donald Trump, especially if it's not an immigrant who's committed it. No, they only want you to talk about things that immigrants do wrong, not what good old American boys do wrong, or girls. So that's how I feel. I feel like I'm being manipulated into talking about a man which, as much as I feel for him, his family, etc., I didn't even know who he was a week ago. I can't worry about everybody on this planet. I can only present, you know, the cases that I find touch me personally, you know, for whatever reason. I feel, you know, it's like, if you, how can I explain it? You know, he was obviously he created a powerful movement. He did a lot with his short life. People loved him, but a lot of people hated him too. You know, that's how it is when you become a public figure. You know, not everybody's going to love you, are they? I was reading through some comments on something the other day, what some politician had said, and I read through the comments, and of course most people will put on negative comments as well, and there were hundreds of negative comments at this. It was a British politician. And I thought, gosh, you know, it's hard to be impervious to that sort. And a lot of them were very hateful as well, really hateful comments. I thought, gosh, you know, you've got to have a thick skin to be impervious to these kind of comments, you know. So, and Charlie was. I mean, he went out there, he debated with people. I've watched him debating, and you can't argue with that. He did debate, and whether you agree with him or not, should not have been shot. But my point is, I'm not talking about him anymore because I'm not even sure of the whole circumstances. And even if, you know, it was that young lad that did kill him because of the fact of his anti-trans views, which it could be, just seems a coincidence to me. He's literally just talking about trans shootings and then he gets shot. But also, I'm thinking, what's this? These people, they're hyping it for their own benefit, hyping it up, making a big thing of it, distracting maybe from this, distracting from wars that are going on. Remember Donald Trump said the Ukrainian war, within 2 days he would stop it. Didn't happen, did it, Donald? Yet another lie. You know, that was the only thing that I thought might come positive out of Trump's re-election was, oh, at least maybe he'll stop the wars. He hasn't stopped either of the wars. He hasn't stopped the Gazan war. And don't forget, if you search Charlie's speeches and things, he had a lot to say about Gaza, and he had a lot to say about Epstein. So, you know, Donald Trump, he hasn't stopped the war in Gaza. He hasn't stopped the war in Ukraine, and he cannot shake off the ghost of this guy. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be very interesting because he's in the UK this week. And of course, Keir Starmer's reeling, the Prime Minister of the UK. He's reeling because he's had to sack Peter Mandelson because of his association with Epstein. Why he ever even gave him that job, I don't know, because Peter Mandelson has always been shifty ever since I can remember. If you're older and you remember him from before, he's the shiftiest politician, one of the shiftiest politicians there ever was. There's always been rumours flying around about him. So, you know, why Keir Starmer ever gave him that job, I don't know. But he did. So Keir Starmer's got to reap what he sowed now. He's got so we've got Donald Trump coming over to the UK. He's going to meet the king. Oh, the king. The king who also has got links to this guy. Now think about it. This guy's got links to everyone. He's like a ghost in everyone's background, isn't he? It's like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do some channeling of him and some tarot card readings, because this guy, he's still around, isn't he? He's like Lucifer, isn't he? Just like haunting everybody that was ever involved with him. Don't think that's going to finish soon either. I think, you know, there's a lot still more to come out, isn't there? It'll always be. Anyway, so Charlie Kirk, I feel like his murder, it's going to end up like the JFK. There's going to be conspiracy theories forever. I'm not going down all these rabbit holes and everything because you can't prove any of them. Nobody will ever know the full story. There'll be more to know, I'm sure. Oh, my coffee went cold then because I was talking too much. And I've got a fan blowing right on it. So, yeah. So I'm so sorry to anyone who is interested in the Charlie Kirk case, if you did want my take on it or whatever. But I won't be giving my take on it because, I've given you now my take on it. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And at the very least, this has been hyped by, you know, for a man who I've never even heard of a week ago, and now he's never off anything that I ever look at. Somebody wants us to talk about Charlie Kirk, and I'm not going to do it because I don't like being hunted into a rabbit hole and made, you know, that's how I feel when I start to feel that people are trying to get you to do that, you know, the powers that be or whatever, I don't even know. You know, trying to get you to look. I like to be independent. I look into my own things. I'm not having someone shoving it down my throat and saying to me, oh, look at this, make a video about this. Yeah, cause confusion about this. No, I'm not doing it. So, you know, that's it as far as I'm concerned, except my heart goes out to his family. I'll always, you know, prayers to him. It was terrible that he was murdered for his political beliefs, if that's what happened. And, I'm sorry that happened. But you know what? There's a lot of horrible things happen all over the world. And the cases I'm going to talk about are the cases of ordinary people leading ordinary lives who get involved in, you know, who die as a result of stalking, or maybe a serial killer's on the loose. But, you know, that I'm not getting involved in the rabbit hole theories. It's just not happening. It's just not me. So I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I hope you'll still watch me one way or another. Thanks for watching this. Take care of yourself because you are the most important person. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you. Bye.